It's like,
Are
really?
we going into closed session right away?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
get
where's Kathy?
tired.
There she is. Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda, moving the closed session to the first item, removing the retreat minutes from the consent calendar, another
And I believe the 24th.
October 24th regular meeting, remove that.
Let me just check to be sure that that's right. Yes.
Removing the October 24th from the consent agenda. Jack, do you have anything to remove?
Yes, second reading of 127.
Naming, removing 127 naming. Okay, did you get all that, Trish?
I'd like to remove 10-1.
10-1. Okay. Anything else? George, you don't have anything?
I don't.
Okay.
Jeez.
All right, can we have a motion with those changes?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, can we have a motion to go into closed session for the purposes listed on the
So moved.
Second.
second? Any discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Okay, hopefully we won't be going too long,
Right.
but don't count on it.
Hopefully it'll be really quick. Maybe not.
The music in the Hamus rooms.
Yes, the concert and the, for choir and guitar classes at Hemis.
Okay. We need that.
Room over here, right?
And
Yes, and it's already. And
Excuse me, is anybody here for public comment? Nope, okay, no one signed up, so I just didn't want you to miss out. Thank you.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comments. Do we have any, Trish?
No.
Then, we'll let our president get
Okay, situated. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and board members and audience members. In beginning my presentation, we'll start with the employees of the month. And first, we have Pass It Forward with Barbara Byrne Gonzalez from the Kids Campus. She nominated Fine Spirit Route, or from OIT. Are either of them here? Okay. And any comments from either of them by chance?
Well, not for them.
Not for them. Okay, for the WOW-gram, we have Gail Torres from Adult Ed who nominated Lynn Mathis. Oh, it's the other way? I always do that. Okay, was nominated by, Gail Torres from Adult Ed was nominated by Lynn Mathis. Okay.
Hey, come on up. Both can come up. Microphone. Microphone.
Right here.
Yes.
Yes.
Speech.
Okay, Lynn Mathis, and I'm the coordinator and a coordinator in the Adult Education Department, and this is Gail Torres, who's a program specialist. Our program, data analyst, program specialist. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. So the Adult Education Department serves between 1,300 and 1,400 students annually. And that's a lot of data. And as we all know, it's just names and numbers if you don't actually figure it out. And Gail is not only an expert at getting all this organized, but she figures it out. So long overdue recognition. Thank you for your dedication and your ongoing support.
So I am Gail, and I've been here at the college for 21 years. My claim to fame is my very first year here on campus, I was the very first help desk. So, and then shortly I moved over to adult ed, and I've been in the exact same position for 20 years. And so, of course, I've seen, we've had growing pains. Just a couple of years ago, we went fully into Banner, which was big for adult ed. But, you know, I've stayed in the same department because I enjoy working with our students. If you don't know, adult ed is working with ESL students and students working on their HSE, the high school equivalency. And our literacy volunteers is also part of our program. So, you know, I often get to help, and I've also taught with the credit side, Math 101. So, you know, being in the classroom has been enjoyable also. So I'm glad to get recognized by my coworkers and to be here. So thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for nominating her. Thank you for your 21 years of service.
Martha?
So I just want to thank you for being here. One of the things that I always think we're going to get to see is to get the people who work here and who do such excellent work and get a chance to at least see your faces and get a little bit of familiar with you. So when people aren't here, we don't have that opportunity. So I just want to thank the two of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you both. So moving on to the President's report. Today we did talk about the Automotive Technology Center, and we selected the architectural firm of Greer Stafford as design professionals, and we're working, as you know, on a site selection and programming details. We have prepared the draft construction manager at risk documents, and we hope to select a contractor by early 2019, and we'll come back to you with that recommendation. You know that the William C. Witter Fitness Education Center will be closed for beautification, and upgrades December 8th through the 13th, and the gymnasium will be closed for floor refurbishing December 3rd through the 4th of February. And we're planning for a big grand reopening once the work is all completed. And we did hire on November 5th Karen Pittman as the Director of Project Management, who will oversee the local GeoBond projects. We were so excited and thankful to our voters for passing Bond B, and we got some money for our library at the college, as did other libraries across Santa Fe County, a total of $656,000 for Santa Fe County libraries. Of course, Bond D passed, and we're thrilled with the overwhelming support on November 6th, and we'll receive $5 million for infrastructure improvements with Bond D funds. Moving on, I did want to mention that New Mexico First has been moving forward with efforts to obtain legislative funding for the successful Sun Path Career Pathways program, which had received TAC funding that ended on September 30th. And currently, New Mexico First is identifying sponsors and meeting with key legislative leaders to obtain support. New Mexico First has asked that SFCC serve as the lead institution, as we did under the TAC grant, and we have agreed so that we would do similar coordination, and the funds would come to the college if they're approved, the legislative funds, for distribution throughout the state.
And I believe that our former president, Randy Grissom, is going to be lobbying that.
He is. He is. And one change in the new program is that besides healthcare, they'll also add energy and IT industry sector jobs. So it'll be expanding. I want to mention that the college was once again named Best for Vets among career and technical colleges by Military Times, thanks to Greg Scargill, who is our Veterans Resource Specialist. I mentioned earlier the nursing pinning ceremony will occur on Thursday. Yesterday was the paramedic graduation. We recognized and celebrated Indigenous Heritage Month in November, and the President's Diversity Advisory Committee supported it, along with Marvin Gavaldon and Dr. Brookney Garndara. A lot of events, including a project that recognized Indigenous women that have disappeared. And we had speakers, hoop dancers, and an Indian taco day. We,
Yes.
yes.
Has the pinning ceremony been moved to Thursday?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say? It's tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm sorry, because we usually meet Wednesdays. That's why I'm mixed up.
Yeah,
Excuse me. It is tomorrow. At what time? 4 o'clock is the nurses' pinning ceremony tomorrow, December 5th. Thank you, Jenny. Assistant Professor of English and Faculty Advisor of the Santa Fe Literary Review, Kate McCahill, has announced that Tommy Orange, author of There, and faculty member at the Institute of American Indian Arts, has agreed to be a featured writer in next year's Santa Fe Literary Review. So in the newspaper a couple of days ago, there was a neat article about the Santa Fe Community College Library hosting therapy dogs in order to help prepare students for finals and not to be as stressed. So they're really cute and very well behaved. I was in there, and they didn't bark. They were just loving the students and faculty and staff. So because things went so well on our October 19th Professional Development Day, and the Sky Center was here working with us on ways that our faculty and staff wouldn't be so stressed and how we can provide support for students, we continued drop-in opportunities offering yoga once a week and mindful meditation in the planetarium once a week. Adding to that is our walking group that walks the trails at noon at 1 p.m. on Fridays. So again, this was just such a positive response that we are trying it out towards the end of this semester and hope to continue it next semester also. Well, our big holiday arts and crafts fair will take place Saturday, December 8th, right after graduation. And thanks to Chair Siegel and Board Member Romero, who attended the annual holiday party on November 30th. The Jingle and Mingle was great fun, and thanks to the foundation for supporting it and funding the food and the DJ, etc.
And the music was good, the
Oh, the choral, yes, the choral group sang Christmas carols, holiday carols, and they were super, thank you for reminding me. And they currently, I guess, are just wrapping up their concert tonight, and they're going to be singing the national anthem at graduation.
Nice.
Finally, it's not on the agenda, on the report, but I want to mention that last week I visited the New Mexico School for the Deaf, and Dr. Rosemary Gallegos, the superintendent, she and I got to be buddies because we did presentations for Bondi, because they got money too, and we were, getting support. So we're working on a partnership for more deaf students to continue their studies at Santa Fe Community College. They've already worked with us with our controlled agriculture program and have built some geodomes similar to our mini greenhouses. And they have lettuce and vegetables and fruit and goldfish. They don't have a permit for tilapia yet, but they're very excited about the partnership. No, I think they're just trying to make sure they stay alive, in the tank for now. But they've already worked with with Charlie in our program, and we want to continue and expand on that partnership. I also wanted to officially recognize Ms. Rebecca Estrada, who has been with the college for 13 years. And she will be departing for new adventures at Los Alamos Foundation as a community outreach specialist. Thank you for your service, for all that you've done to build the HEC and the dual credit program. I know that when you started, we had 3 partners, and now we have 20 dual credit partners. So thank you, Rebecca. And I want to end my report with a holiday video card that we have here to show you. Yeah, that marketing developed. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
So where does that go?
Todd.
Up, microphone.
Microphone.
We have members of the board, Chair Siegel, President Cervantes. We have a distribution list of our external key stakeholders, about 2,000 emails long. We'll do a sponsored post on social media, reach about 10,000 eyeballs there, and the foundation also sends it out to their group. So it's kind of targeted to our closest circles, but we get it out there through social media as well.
So let me ask you a question. Since you worked at Hutton at one time, those Hutton screens that are up all over and they're doing all these videos?
Yeah, we run our things there, but
not this.
Well, that's a good idea. Those are for 15 seconds usually.
Oh.
This is about 1 minute and 15.
Okay.
So that could either be really expensive or really maybe I haven't even considered it, but it's a good thought to go, maybe do something holiday themed on those.
Real short.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Todd and Haley.
Nice ad.
Nice job. Isn't
Thank
that
you.
great?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's an ad. Okay, are you done?
Done, yes, ma'am.
All right. Then we have our enrollment update.
Good evening, Chair Siegel, President Cervantes, board members. I am here to present the enrollment report for fall 2018. What you'll see here is that we are down in head count 6.4% and down in FTE and credit hours 9.79%. And then in courses, we're down 5.13%. And I'm happy to sit for questions, and I think Todd has a brief update about Ticket to College workshops that we've been having.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So our Ticket to College efforts, which are the AccuPlacer FAFSA workshops where we visit the high schools, have been ongoing. So in October, November at Capitol and Santa Fe High School, we've had about 4 visits and reached about 67 total seniors, of which we've had just a very good opportunity to talk to them and share, direct information about the college. And so that is happening through January, February, March, April, and into May. So it's a very good way to reach the one important population, which is the high schoolers who are transitioning, hopefully, into higher education. Our open house that we held brought in about 100 people, and all very good responses, which have turned into relationships that we're cultivating through a variety of methods, email and text messages primarily, but also phone calls. And we also had Jemez Pueblo Day here at the college, where about 40 students were bussed in, and they actually got to sit in classes. And because we all know that hands-on experience or that immersive experience is very valuable. And Marcos reports to me that 10 of those students are now SFCC students. So those are a couple examples of some kind of boots on the ground recruitment efforts. And we've also been working closely with the New Mexican on a story about the power of certificates, which was going to center on some issues, topic around the certificates and what that means to our students. Good timing around the graduation time. And so, yeah, I'm happy to answer, have any other questions.
Questions? Dick?
I have a question for Margaret. On the Pell eligibility, it says degree-seeking non-high school. Could you explain that to me? I mean, you can go to high school and be Pell eligible, can't you?
No.
You can't? You have to not have graduated from high school to be eligible for a Pell Grant?
You can't be in high school.
No, you can't be in high school,
Right.
but you, what does that mean, non-high school? Non-high school. I thought that meant they didn't go to high school.
I think that means they're not in high school.
Yeah, but if they were in high school, they couldn't be Pell eligible anyway,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay,
Is
so,
that the older student then that we're looking at? The older, just graduated from high school?
Yash, can you help clarify this? Because I understood it to be that they're not in high school. Oh, that they're not in high school. Yes.
yeah. Well, but you're not eligible for a Pell Grant.
So in order to be
You're
eligible
in high
for Pell
school.
Grant, you have to graduate from high school. So what that means is these are students after you take out of the people who are currently in high school. You can't apply for, as you said, Board Member Sullivan, you can't apply for financial aid while they're still in high school.
Right, so this is just basically Pell Grants for degree-seeking students.
Yes, degree-seeking students who are not dual credit, because you could be a degree-seeking and dual credit students.
Oh, I see. So you're cutting out dual credit students. Right. Because they're in high school. Right.
But do we know if this represents the older student, not high school age, but, you know, the 22 to 40? Anybody? Okay. Any of them.
I don't have an age breakdown for the Pell Grant. Now, if that's something you all are interested in.
That would be interesting to see how many Pell Grants are in the 25 to 44 or the older than 25 range.
Absolutely.
And there is a limit, right? There is a threshold, an upper threshold for.
Is there an age limit?
No, not
Yeah, not age, but money.
Yeah, right, how much your income.
How much? No. How much you can
Your
collect?
cap to get, yeah.
Yeah.
What is the cap?
Not aware. I'm sorry. I can get that to you. So when we come back and provide you with the information about the age and other information, we'll be happy to provide other.
Now, how much can you get in a lifetime from Pell?
And is that eligibility for Pell only for a degree seeking, or can it be for less than 12-hour credit hours?
People could receive Pell Grant for less than 12 credit hours.
Certificates?
Usually an associate degree, or once it's embedded into a program that is eligible to receive financial aid.
It can be a certificate if it embeds in an associate degree. Mm-hmm.
One more?
According to studentloans.net, the lifetime amount for a Pell Grant is $5,920, but not all students will receive that much.
Well, that's pitiful. That's the lifetime amount?
So the program used to cover substantial amount of higher education costs, but the federal government has not decided to increase that amount in relation to, in comparison to the cost of living.
Yeah,
That's increased.
and tuition increases.
On the other hand, you can get a whole lot more on loans.
Yeah, but that's not so
But,
good.
yeah,
And so several years ago, the Financial Aid Office decided to actively try to make sure they consult the students so they understand what's
Right.
getting loans, and they were able to successfully reduce the number of amount of loans. So I think that's been a positive.
but I just recently looked at that amount, and it's like 138,000 is the upper threshold that a student in our.
For an associate degree? Okay. Any other questions? All righty, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to be so happy the day that the enrollment is in a positive.
Me too.
Wait till the economy goes down.
Yeah, that could be coming quite soon.
That won't make us happy anyway.
Okay, we're actually, the Santa Fe Housing Coalition is going to come in January to present. So we need to put that on the agenda for the January.
Okay.
Okay, we have staff, Senate, here. And we actually have minutes from October.
Good evening, Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Cervantes. Not a lot to report. We continue to work with the administration. We had a very productive meeting at Governance Council last week. We have raised the issue of temp employees and some of the things that we perceive might be considered changed, and we're very happy to report that the administration is receptive in working with us on solutions, and we continue to collaborate as much as possible. I stand for questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I had another question on the Pell Grant.
Oh,
Do you know about Pell Grants?
A little bit.
Okay, good. Is there a restriction on Pell Grants like there is in the lottery scholarships that it can't apply in the first semester?
I don't believe so.
So that can take place right away, but the lottery scholarships do not. You have to have one qualifying semester. Okay.
Yes. Bridge, yeah.
But Okay, thank you.
The certificates have to be 16 credit hours or more and nested.
Oh, okay.
Right, so you can't just,
So like the CNA certificate that's 5.5 credit hours is not Pell eligible.
okay, so you just can't, woodworking is not Pell eligible unless it's a
Yeah,
degree
I
or something.
remember what the woodworking certificate is. Sorry, I have a lot of them memorized. but not
Probably
the-
has one.
Probably.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question
I
about,
just want,
Let Melissa go and then.
oh, sorry.
I just want to comment on how much I appreciate how positive and how much attention you give to the policy issues that we move forward. It's really, really helpful, I think, that you're willing to engage those as seriously as you do and to report on them. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, George.
Yes, I was just going to ask, do you have any update? Is there something going on among staff regarding the matrix,
So
the
we are waiting.
salary matrix?
Yeah, we are expecting some data from IR. I believe Barb was going to try to have it done today. That updates the presentation that we made to the governing board in 2016. Our plan is to present that to President Cervantes and Nick Tejas and a couple other people first, and then have a dialogue about it. We are still undecided, but we have a little bit of time as to whether we will put in a budget request. We are very encouraged that the compensation and classification study will be done in time for this budget year, but we're not entirely convinced that that will really solve what we perceive as the equity issues. And so we continue to collaborate, and it's very possible that we will make that budget presentation to you as well, depending on the outcome of having the conversations with the president and our CFO.
Great, thank you.
Another question.
Yes.
We talked in the past about the scheduling task force.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us an update on that? And also, I noticed now that the college has gone online with a student scheduling gizmo. I forget what they call it.
Yeah.
It's good. I'd like to see a presentation on that at the next meeting, how that works.
Okay.
Kind of a walkthrough. But
Sure.
But can you update us on the scheduling task force?
I actually am not on it. Perhaps Yash can do that, since Julie Gallegos, who's in our office, is on that. I don't know.
And does that
But I can
relate to-
certainly request that
Yeah.
they come and get
And
it.
does that relate, or is this maybe somebody can answer it? Is this scheduling software that has popped up on the internet? Is that something that
I can tell you a
jibes
little
with
bit
this?
about that. It's not part of the scheduling task force.
Okay.
We had a demonstration of it. It helps a student put their schedule in and then schedule courses so that those hours are blocked off, and then it ports right into Banner. So it's just to make a student's experience in selecting classes a lot easier.
But it doesn't solve the problem of one class at 8 in the morning, another at 8 at night.
One thing that it will help us with is that it will give us some data about what courses students are looking for, what times they prefer, things like that. And we were just at a training about the data that we can get out of it, because we know what students register for, but we don't know what they try to register for. So this will give us some data that will help with some of those problems.
This new gizmo,
This new gizmo, yes.
not the scheduling task force.
The scheduling task force is working on all those kind of things that you're talking about, making sure that classes are at times that will work for students. And we're doing that in conjunction with looking at the guided pathways that we're developing for students.
And what kind of benchmarks do we have here?
Well, we have some data on where we are now, which I cannot summarize for you at this moment. And that's a place to start from. And then we've also looked at what other colleges are doing.
But there was some talk about new software that was going to help with this.
Yeah, that's Ad Astra. It's not new, it's just a software that we're getting deeper into how we can use it more effectively. So it's a software we already have, but it's one that we want to make more productive use of.
What are we using it for now?
We're using it to schedule rooms right now. What else do we use it for? primarily for room scheduling. And we'll be able to, the task force has discussed it being able to be used where we can set it up and it will schedule rooms for us as a way of, what do you call it, to maximize room utilization.
So now you're expanding that use to see where we can maximize classes as opposed to rooms.
Right, so if we do the scheduling correctly and we have the right blocks, we won't have courses that overlap by 15 minutes, so we'll be able to use rooms more effectively. We'll be able to offer more classes at times that students want them, so we won't be limited by the facility as much if we do this scheduling in a thoughtful way. And this software will help us, once we set it up, it will just sort of plunk everything into the rooms in the way that's in a variety of ways based on some rules that we teach it, so that we can be more effective.
And does that take into consideration what students want? I mean, what?
That's something that we have to do when we're thinking about when to offer the classes. And we have done a couple of surveys. Josh, maybe you can help with that.
I recall the surveys. The surveys have been pretty thorough.
Yeah.
My question is, what do we do with those surveys?
And we have the evening weekend online task force, which is addressing some of the issues of, making things available for students in those windows. And we've been looking at, trying to understand what students want in that area from the research, and then also looking at programs that we can deliver effectively in the evening, weekend, and online format. So we are looking at, what are some of the results of those surveys and how can we offer things that students want.
So are we implementing any of this yet, or is it?
We are implementing it as we go. Each time we redo this schedule, we're getting more strategic in terms of when we offer the classes, what the class blocks are. We've made a lot of changes in the spring semester coming up, and even more for the summer and fall to make the blocks work, and for us to also look for places where, one of the most egregious problems with scheduling has to do with students needing to take 2 courses in the same semester, which are single section courses which are offered at the same time. And so that kind of thing, that we're actively looking for those kind of issues and trying to beat them off at the pass. So as we work on the schedule, we're working on that. So we are kind of continually looking at ways that we can improve each time we do this schedule. And that's the kind of ongoing work of this group.
And is there some point where we should get a progress report, or is there some logical phase point where the board should be updated, or is it just ongoing? I mean, when we first started this, the report was that it was going to be a 3-year process.
Right.
Okay. That was a year ago. So I'm not saying you should be done yet.
We are not by any means done. I'll leave that to other folks. What do you think about the report out?
Well, I only wanted if we made some progress. Yeah, if there's
I
something
think
to
it might be
report.
interesting to look at how registration goes for the spring semester and see what we have as a result of that.
Yeah,
We
that'd
can
be a good
certainly, give you some metrics of the number of different time blocks being used is being drastically reduced. That's something that we're already seeing. And so, yeah, whenever you, we could combine those things.
We've identified, I think, the staff.
Yeah, this is kind of an on-the-fly report, but we
Staff
can do
has-
something more orderly for sure.
Well, the staff has identified, over a year ago that this is an area that that's causing enrollment problems, and so it's not going to solve the enrollment problem, but it certainly will help it.
May I add that, we had the enrollment task force that identified some strategies, and one of them was to improve the scheduling and the blocks of scheduling that we offered to include more weekend, evening, and online. And so we took, I think, the first effort at that for the spring semester. And, we could update you how it's changed based on the efforts that responded. Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next time we'll have it in writing, right?
Just double checking, are there any more staff senate questions?
She wears a
thought
lot.
that was a good
She
one.
wears a lot of hats.
Well, I'm nosy because I have to write the college self-study, so it helps to know a lot.
So we have proceeded with the salary.
The compensation.
Compensation
Yes,
study.
yes. We currently, with the compensation study, we had an RFP.
Yeah.
And then we had response to the RFP, and we're going through the evaluation process right
Right.
now.
And my co-chair, Megan McGarity, is on the evaluation team. We were very pleased that the college included Staff Senate representation on that, since it's such a crucial issue for all of us.
And so we'll have a selection.
Yeah, soon. Yeah, very soon, and Terrence can clarify.
You and me again.
Members of the board, Madam Chair, Madam President. Yes, just a quick clarification. Megan is a part of the advisory committee as opposed to the evaluation committee. I'm sorry, and there was a question.
The question was, how is it proceeding, and when will we have a contract in place, and when will it start, and all that?
Well, we have an interview with the vendor set up for this upcoming week, and we look to do the award in early January.
And then the survey would take place when? Soon after?
The time frame.
The time frame for the actual survey and the completion of the survey? And
Yeah, well,
approximately.
Approximately, the analysis would happen the following 4 to 6 weeks in terms of doing the actual survey and collecting and compiling the data.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That was related to Staff Senate.
It was. Thank you very much.
All right, student government.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Madam Chair, and President Cervantes. On my report, sorry, I've been fighting a cold for the last month or so, and it just doesn't go away. And then I get this really bad cough, and then I can't speak. All right, so from our end, okay. From our end, our last official meeting was November 14th. Our last executive meeting was November 28th. And we will be returning January 23rd to our duties. We attended the ASGA conference in Los Angeles, November 16th through the 18th. We did a lot of team building. We networked with people from Chicago, New York, from here, actually from New Mexico, California. The SFCC student government was recognized as founders once again. The CEO mentioned that there were about 100 schools who had the forward-thinking vision of the importance of SGA, and SFCC was one of them. We actually got recognized with these little pins right here, which was pretty nice. Also, SFCC was well represented. We wore our, as you can see, we dressed for success. A school from Illinois has reached out to us to see how we do our SGA here at SFCC, and also how the food pantry works. That's still in process. We also did peer-to-peer training in Santa Monica. We had a private consultation with the ASGA CEO, and we had a lot of questions focusing around election, because election is coming up for SGA for the incoming team of 2019-2020, because our last term is next semester. Our January will be election time, and we're looking to fill all of the positions from president to vice president, historian, treasurer, and Senate positions. So we'll be working on that throughout January. Excuse me. Also, OSD, Jesus Christ. OSD started a campaign for finals, giving out free oatmeal and free hot chocolate. Full stomach for students helps our students succeed.
I saw them out there.
Yeah, so we want our students to succeed. About 400 oatmeals were given out and 1,000 hot chocolates. And then also graduation's coming up. Student ambassadors will be assisting with graduation. Freedom ambassadors will be selling flowers. NSLS will be selling water. our senator from Trades and Technology, Hernan Gomez, will be graduating, and my advisor said I had to say this. She says, "We are proud of Naomi. She is also graduating." I'll be walking with my EMT certificate. Lastly, Sam continues doing the Governance Council. Frida does PDAC. I'm with the President Search Advisory Committee. And in addition, we continue preparing for our transition for 2019-2020. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But then you're going to keep going to school for your nursing.
For nursing.
Great. One step, yeah.
The pathway.
Right.
I will be taking my HESI next week, or the 12th.
Good luck.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, let's go to the consent agenda where we removed the October 24th regular meeting, the board retreat minutes, the naming, and the college-owned property. So could we have a motion to approve what's left on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's start then with the removed items, the regular meeting of October 24th.
Okay.
Who had something on that?
Madam Chair, on page 4 of it's C8 in your books. There is a statement under communications. It's a 6th bullet. And it needs to be corrected. I'm sorry that the faculty senate isn't here to hear this, but hopefully our staff can take care of that. It says the board clarified that during the presidential search, the 5 chosen candidates will remain confidential and will be interviewed by the search committee only. When decided, the finalist's name will be released to meet with the public. That is incorrect. The correction is that the candidates that will be interviewed as semifinalists will be selected by the search committee, and those will be set up, and they will be interviewed by the search committee only. When they decide on who to forward to the board, and they have to forward at least 5, those names become public, because according to New Mexico law. And then depending on those 5 will be interviewed by the board, and there will be probably an open forum for the candidates after their interview to meet with the public, to meet with the constituents, to meet with anybody on the campus that wants to meet with them in an open forum environment. And then we will collect evaluations of those forms from the participants, and the board will look into that as they decide on a finalist. So that clarification, we need to be clear in our minutes throughout that what the process is.
So you got the gist of how to correct that.
That's, Madam Chair, that's kind of complicated. To keep the minutes succinct, is really the issue that the chosen candidates will remain confidential, but not necessarily 5, and it'll be more than 5, is my understanding.
No, the semifinalists may be more than 5. The chosen the finalists that are advanced to the board have to be at least 5.
Okay, so what you want to say here is that the semifinals, instead of 5 chosen, we put in there semifinalist candidates will remain confidential, but they won't.
No, the
They will.
5 have to be announced.
No, I'm not getting to the 5 yet. Okay, what I said was, on the first line, the semifinal candidates will remain confidential and will be interviewed by the search committee only. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so instead of 5 chosen, we can just put in there the semifinal candidates.
That's fine.
Okay, so we put semifinal for that. Then the second sentence would be what would you suggest there?
Well, the
Martha?
second sentence is that the search committee will forward the names of at least 5 finalists to the board.
Okay, so then the search committee will at least 5 finalists to the board.
And the
what
board will
about-
interview those,
And the board will interview those,
5,
Their names are released.
or however many that are forwarded.
and their names have to be released according to,
And those names will be released to the public.
okay, and then what about?
And then
the
when
public
we,
meetings?
when we interview the finalists, we will also schedule an open forum for community people and campus constituents to meet them and to interact with them.
And will that be all 5 finalists or?
Well, not all 5 together. They will be individual forums after each individual interview.
Okay, but is it for sure there'll be 5 interviews?
Well, there will be at least 5 interviews because that's what we are required by law to have.
Okay, so, but in each case, when there is an interview, then the public and the staff and the faculty will have an opportunity to interact with them.
That's correct.
Okay. I was confused about that too.
Okay. That's the only correction?
So I would move approval of the October 24th regular meeting minutes with those corrections.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, to the board retreat. You know, I'm the one who had a question, but I'm just gonna drop it, so. So let's have a motion to pass these. I guess I was concerned, I kind of feel like that all, I know there was a lot that we said, but that some of the key things that were said were not quite captured, but I know it was rather chaotic, so let's just go ahead and approve these.
Well, Madam Chair, didn't we had a report
Right.
on the retreat,
Yeah.
which was more
Right,
comprehensive.
Which was more comprehensive,
Which is
so
more-
let's just leave these.
Did you want to attach that report as an attachment to this?
Good, if we attach the report to the minutes.
There was a report that the
Right.
facilitator
That was a good
reviewed.
report.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we just attach that to,
Yeah, now, okay, that'll make me feel better. And that's not criticism of the minutes, it's just that,
Yeah, there was more.
yeah. And you couldn't have put the more that were in the report. Okay, great, so then can I have a motion to approve these with the attachment of the report? Motion?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, okay, now we're on to the naming.
This is an easy one, Madam Chair.
Better come up.
C19, please.
C19. Okay,
Okay, under paragraph D, as in David, strike the 2 words, "the board."
okay.
That's all.
Then
Well, then there's no
it
sentence.
doesn't make sense.
In consultation with the foundation retains the right.
Read the top. Policy process. The board, A, recognizes the role of the foundation. B, works collaboratively with the foundation board.
I see. Okay.
C, will entertain requests from the foundation. D, in consultation with the foundation, retains the right, etc.
Okay, you're right.
Madam Chair, members of the board, briefly, Laura had a typo.
I see.
You didn't have to fess up on that.
Okay.
I took the heat for that one.
All right, can we have a motion on naming 1-27?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we're on to college-owned and leased property. What page is that?
C31.
31. Martha, was that yours?
No, it was mine.
Kathy, that was yours?
So I just want to start out by saying we made a lot of progress on this from the last time, so thank you to everybody who put work into it and really thought it through. I think it looks great. I love the fact that we've defined some priority and reasons, of why we have others hosted on the college, and I think they're all very appropriate. One quick question, which is really just that, in talking through kind of rationale, is we talk about partners, that you need to be, we give priority to designated partners. The definition to that is pretty broad. What is the thought behind, how do you become a partner to the college? Who do we?
Not partner with.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the main partners that we have are many who are in the education field, like the school districts and and other related entities. So I would say that those, and then community agencies that also support our students and support the community. We just have some long-standing partnerships that fall in under community organizations and educational organizations. So I would say those are the principal ones. I don't know, Laura, if there was others that came up in our conversation.
Neighborhood associations.
Neighborhood, there you go.
League of Women Voters, the
Yeah.
types of longstanding relationships that
Yes.
we've had, where we have found it benefits students one way or another, or we're able to benefit them because they're making contributions to the community at large. But it's not a strong definition. I think it's loose on purpose because it flexes with our priorities and
Allows us.
what's available, yeah. But I'm open to, of course, we're open to better
Absolutely.
language there.
Madam Chair? I kind of like that definition, actually, because of the fact that it leaves a lot of options open.
Yes.
And you know that partnerships change over the years, sometimes within a year. You'll have a project that is completed and that partnership might be, might then be concluded. But if you leave it as open as I think it is, it allows for lots of different opportunities. And if we were to restrict it in any way, say educational only or, whatever, however we name it, that will be too restrictive, I think. But I too wanted to say that I really appreciated the rewrite of this policy. My comfort level with it is much greater because I think it really allows us to talk about the things that we were concerned about the last time, which was community involvement. How do we serve the community? Whose is the college? All of that. And you did a lovely job of doing that. Thank you.
I think the partnerships too are and somewhat defined by the policy process,
Right.
where we have the priorities, although I wish, are these priorities not in the order of priority?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, that's correct. They are in order, but because of the way it's set up, the way the numbers go, we left
It's not in order of priority.
No.
And
Right.
first priority isn't necessarily.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Deborah.
Jack?
One minor typo on page C31. Just delete that thing that says governing board first reading, because this is up for second reading.
It is, yeah.
Deborah, you have something? Oh, who are all these students?
Great to have you. Hey,
Welcome.
Yeah.
welcome.
So Ernest, who's everybody? What's happening? Good evening. Good evening. Come and talk into the mic for a sec. Tell us about your students.
Good evening, everybody. I always think best leaders
Mike,
to learn from.
Mike.
Good evening, everyone. I just returned. I was in surgery for the last couple of weeks, and I got back today, and it's our final. And this is our student leadership class. It's a lot of dual enrollment students. We have students from Santa Fe High. We have students from Capital. We have students from ECO. We have students from Hondemas. These are our students that are our potential students that'll be coming once they graduate. Many are juniors and seniors. And so, you know, in leadership, Dr. Cervantes, we're always recruiting them early, aren't we?
Absolutely.
The sooner the better. And we're looking at, Martha, that leadership at the top, the way we learn is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so whether in Washington.
What you're saying we are?
Yeah.
No. I believe our students should see what it's really like so that they understand what you guys do is important. It affects us. It affects our community. And so by coming in and listening to you, they get a bigger picture. They understand what you do for them. And what I get to see you in action as well, and I get to learn from you because at leadership is subjective. That was part of their final. I hope they understand that part. Is that we're going to learn in leadership in many, many different ways. And so, Linda, when I get to see you, I try to figure out the things that you do so well, and then I put in my toolbox to tweak it to fit me. And so I also have my TAs and TLs that are with me that are college students if they stand up behind me. These are student ambassadors, student government students that are also here. They help me teach the class. For the last 4 years, I've incorporated, or 5 years of teaching the course. I take these students in with me, and they also help me teach the leadership class.
Great.
And so also I have my student leadership coordinator, Mary Elias. ¿Dónde estás, María?
Acá escondiéndose.
Okay. So, you know, Jack, we've sat on committees before, and I always like to listen and watch you work. And George, I know you got a year with us, or 2 years now? Almost, and it's always good to see you up there and learn from you. And Kathy, I know you're always keeping an eye on everything, make sure we got things going on. And the rest of these guys take great photos of you guys because I get to watch it when I'm not able to be here. So, but I you know what I always love to do is pick a student for you can hear from a student instead of from me. Would you mind?
Please.
Okay. Which of my students would love to say something in terms of Andrea? Thank you. Come on up here. Why don't you tell these folks what does leadership mean to you, and what have you learned being in our leadership class? Please.
So first, tell us your name, Andrea, and where are you at Santa Fe or somewhere else?
Okay. Hi, my name is Andrea Paredes. I go to Santa Fe High. I am a junior. And what leadership means to me is being a person that's up high, that people look up to you. Someone that looks up to you and being a leader to others that don't have that model to look up to. That's what leadership means to me. And being in this classroom has taught me so much. It's taught me teamwork. It's taught me how to find my own voice so I could speak up, because I couldn't do this like 14 weeks ago. I couldn't do this right now. And now I'm doing it. So leadership taught me a lot, and it was a fun class. And
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because you got to balance it out.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Mary, who should you pick? Let's pick a step on. Because he's been helping us teach, right?
All right. We've seen him before at these scholarship luncheons.
Yeah. You did a great job.
I'm sorry, I walked in late. I was in the restroom, but what was the question?
What is leadership?
What is leadership?
To you?
To me, gosh, leadership has started with me since way back. I have to say, probably at home with my dad. My dad was like my first teacher. Like I said in my speech at the luncheon, he just instilled in me very soon, in a very young age, the core values that I think are very necessary in this world: respect, care, love. You see a lot of people spreading around hate. Why can't we spread around love? Leadership is family. Leadership is home. Leadership can take forms of many different shapes and forms, and it can start at a very young age as well. We have kids in the office. We have a kid named KJ. He's been in the office, I want to say, 3 or 4 years. He's one of our assistants in the office's sons. And just watching him grow these past 2 years and seeing not only the programs we have influence him, but him influence us as well. He teaches me a lot. He teaches me patience. He teaches me to kind of just sit back and look and observe a little bit better. And of course, Ernest, you know, having a role model like Ernest, having our class. I've been a TA for 5 semesters now, I think. And I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like Tuesday nights, I love Tuesday nights. I'm done with school. I finished my finals today, so woo, I'm very happy. But I still have, this is my commitment. These kids are my priority. And that's why I'm excited to go into this career of education. I'm excited to shake the foundation, as we learned at a conference in New Jersey that we were sent to not too long ago. So I'm excited to bring all these new ideas, not only to this school, but to the education as a whole. And, you know, leadership, it comes from the heart. If you're not meaning it from the heart, where are you meaning it from? And, you know, thank you guys for being here, because you guys have the heart. You guys have the passion to make this school not only better for you guys, but for us. And, you know, without you guys, this school wouldn't be possible. And, like, we're a team. We have to work together. Without us, you guys wouldn't be here. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. And that's what's beautiful about it, is that we can come and collaborate with you guys. Absolutely no questions asked, no problem. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ernest, thank you for bringing the students in, and thank you all for coming and going through this class. And I hope that we're going to see you here on campus taking courses and getting certificates and degrees and
Madam Chair.
finding great jobs. Yeah, Jack.
I'm just interested, how many of you all, if you could raise your hand, are dual credit students? Oh, darn.
Everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're all, yeah, that's great. We really appreciate your contribution to this college, because we really want to know and receive feedback from you who are in high school, who are contemplating going on to college. And that makes a lot of sense. And we appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to add, and Ernest, you tell me, is how does it, when I look at leadership, when I think about it, one word that, or 2 words that come to mind to me are public service. And is that something that you talk about in your class?
One of the models is Robert Greenleaf. Robert Greenleaf really looks at 7 different aspects, 10 different aspects of servant leadership. We are here to serve. The best leaders serve first. It's not about how cool we are. It's that we go and serve our community. And many of these students served over 3,000 people at Halloween. They came in this very room, they're giving cupcakes and playing games. They're reminding that this environment is their environment. So the beauty of Halloween that a lot of these students helped us with was serving their community. Yes.
He actually doesn't know this yet, but our video that's like part of our final, we actually help the community. Right. A lot of our, all of these. Great.
That's great. Well, it's come up, of course, just this week in the news with the death of former President George H.W. Bush, and the comments that I've heard frequently about him are his lifelong commitment to public service. And I guess if there's one thing that at least I could pass on to you is that's an important goal. That's an important thing to strive for. And when you do it, it makes you feel good. And so you feel like you've accomplished something, however small it may be, whether it's a Halloween program or it's whatever you undertake and whatever you can achieve one step at a time. So if there's anything I'd like to keep uppermost in your thoughts is as you move forward is public service. Thank you so much for being here.
There's 2 parts. One is a written. The next part is they have to develop a 6 to 10 minute video on leadership collectively as a class. If a student misses, that's a letter grade. So they have all the components of the leadership that they've done is they'll use those components. The five models out of Cruz and Bosner is that they have to incorporate it in their video. So all that stuff, if all these folks that we developed, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna see that they're gonna present to myself and the team. And we'll grade them, and so when I look at my students, it is that, and they also have a binder portfolio that I get to evaluate of all the work they've done through the semester. And they don't know this either, but what they're gonna do is take their binder, share it with each other, and show their success of what they've done, and do kind of like a yearbook with each other. So these students I'm gonna get to see is, did they learn something? Did I do my job? Did my TLs and TAs and Mary, did we do our job by teaching these students how to be leaders? Because they've taught us a lot of things along the way. But the beauty is, I think, I'm just curious, and don't do this because it's me, but many of you that are juniors or seniors, you guys think Santa Fe Community College now might be your choice to come to college here? Raise your hand if you're going to come here.
Great.
There you go.
Great. Y a los estudiantes también que hablan español, estos estudiantes tienen el ánimo y están haciendo las cosas que quieren vivir, están estudiando el idioma y están listos. Están listos a hacer la lucha, de trabajar de diferentes lugares, del apoyo del lenguaje de español. So, my Spanish students that speak Spanish, Nayeli, mírala ya, I see you, Rita.
Hola.
Right, I am. I'm the only student from that.
And what does it feel like when you take this class and you see our leaders up here? Why is leadership important for our community or our world?
Honestly, leadership is just so important in general, like in everything you do. Like when you're in a group and you show leadership and show that you can work in a group, like it really like puts you aside and it like puts you at a higher level. Not that you're better than anyone else, but like it just like shows that you can do this job and you can be a great member. And leadership is just such a great skill to have. I might go on a little bit, but when I was growing up, I've always kind of been like a leader. But honestly, being in this class, it made me grow a lot. Like helped me grow so much, and I'm so happy because I feel like as humans and like the way our brain works, like we can always learn and grow. And so I'm very proud to be in this class because I'm going out with so many skills and so proud and so ready to help the community and do something and make a difference once I get older.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Yes, Deborah Bolt, Executive Director of Santa Fe Community College Foundation, and I just wanted to express my thanks, but my deepest gratitude to Ernest and Mary and his team and all the students who have helped us in so many meetings, including our last foundation luncheon, where they expressed how they've been helped by this college and how it's made such a difference to them to receive scholarships, be part of it. And you are actually impacting our fundraising ability because people hear your stories and they want to get involved, so you're engaging them. So I thank you very, very much.
Quiero decirles muchas gracias y estoy muy contenta que pueden hablar en dos idiomas.
Yo estoy de acuerdo con la doctora Romero que muchos de ustedes son bilingües y es importante hablar en los dos idiomas. No se les olvide. Keep the bilingual skills are very important in our world. We're proud of you.
All right, thank you.
My name is Noemi. I'm the student government president here at Santa Fe Community College. And let me tell you, I took this class and Ernest would always tell me, you already know leadership, huh? You're taking it. You're just taking it just to take it. And it wasn't not just to take it. I learned so much, even though I worked out in the community and done a lot of leadership stuff. I learned so many things from each student. Sometimes we think, oh, we're already older, we know more than these kids. And it's not true. We teach one another. And that's the powerful thing about leadership. You never stop learning. So you're your biggest obstacle. Don't let that get to you. Keep pushing through, and we will see you here when you graduate.
And one of the things that I made, Margaret and Rebecca, hardly pick on Rebecca, as much as I would like, because she doesn't do it alone. And she opened a lot of doors for us to look at this class and look at the opportunity we're doing. What I'm finding, Linda, is these students are lateraling into our campus. It's not only about leadership, but they're lateraling and seeing that SFCC should be and is the first choice. That it is the opportunity, the gateway of what we offer this institution is cutting edge. And what Margaret and Rebecca, when she's out there, you know, it's not easy to get out to the community and work with the public school system and what's going on, but I know she's done an exceptional job, and Margaret letting us incorporate these kind of models, I think continues to open that gateway for our students. So I want to thank you two for really looking to continue those gateways for us, because of you, then I get to work with these students, and Mary and the team and us, we get to share what it's like to be college students, and being a college student for this institution. My heart is big on SFCC, this is part of my home, and I've said this many times to you guys, is that you all are real people, and I really thank you for letting these students come in. I didn't expect us to do this. I just wanted to come and learn from the leaders, but you always make us feel welcome, Linda and the team, all you guys, that this is what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. Someday you'll be sitting up over there, and you guys will be teaching us how to do these kind of things. And Henry, thank you for the beautiful campus, and Nick, the budget, and the rest of you, the beautiful budget. Beautiful. Thank you for remarking all the great stuff you do for us. With that, I think we should let y'all, I better let them go through their finals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you
coming
all.
in.
Good luck
Yes.
on your final. Anytime, come anytime.
Yes.
Good night.
Hi, Mary.
Bye, good luck to
same
you.
here.
Bye. Bye.
They're so sweet. Oh my goodness. You know, that's a model class for high schoolers to teach leadership.
All right, Deborah.
Madam
did you
Chair.
want to talk to us about something?
Governing board members and interim President Cervantes. I just have I'd like to make a strong recommendation that when we are determining the groups that would be outside groups using our campus facilities, that we have to show a direct correlation towards helping our students to serve our students. And I have had the experience where was not able to get space that for those types of activities because it was being used by groups who could very well afford to use a downtown hotel and who wanted to pour wine and everything else. So I just really would like to make sure, and I'd be happy to work on before the second reading, and I think I've already done
This is
the
the
second reading.
But
Yeah,
we have to develop procedures.
and so maybe that's
for-
where
and that's
we
where
would
we can
iron that
have
out.
the details.
So I just say that because it was very strongly felt that there were people that should not be, they should be downtown at a hotel.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Yes, Todd wants to add something.
While I have the opportunity, I just wanted to share some quick information that I've compiled around this topic. I found it really interesting, and I hope you do too. Mason, would you mind?
You just happen to have a PowerPoint.
In his pocket.
Right. This is just very impromptu, I know, but I'm going to do this quickly. And I have this on smaller, but I think this is important for us to understand a few things. That as a mission, we're incredibly generous to our community.
And we should be.
Yes,
Supported by our taxpayers
right.
in a big way.
Thank you, and I felt very proud of the work that we're doing on a community level after compiling some of this. But basically, right now, we talk about external events. So these are events that people pay for. This could be nonprofit. This could be corporate. There's going to be ways to, flesh this out a little bit, but I'm not going to go there in some cases. For the last year, we went and compiled. There's 8,768 people that we've served this year in that realm. Okay, so just hold on to that. When we talk about internal events, these are events that are made up of everything that non-classes, and so that could range from community collaborations to popcorn parties and Halloween. That's about 25,300 as a head count. Of that, the collaborative space that we're kind of discussing in this policy, that's about 5,000 visitors. And this is crude. I threw this together for context, not to be like scientifically, accurate. But the only last piece of this that I'll share is that I wanted to kind of understand that in the context of a cost ratio. And so what I did is I divided, I mentioned the external events. These are people who pay. So I took the total head count and I divided that into the amount of revenue we drew. And that gave me a head count of how much it for facility it costs the college to have, or the college gets if we have somebody. It's about $3, okay? Which is incredibly affordable. So if, just for context, if someone rents our Jemez rooms for a day, all 3 rooms, it's about $500 for nonprofit. If at market rate, that would be about $1,650. So we're charging about 30 cents on the dollar to the groups that are even paying in the first place. And so what does that mean? The external partners, if we take that $3 and we multiply that by the 5,100 participants, there's a cost there of about $15,000. What this means is we're providing this service to the community and it's not really, the impact is low. Now I'm not factoring in the cost of electricity, OIT, POMs. This is purely just on a facility rate. But Santa Fe Community College is an incredible bargain. And then Mason, would you just go to the next slide? And I just wanted you to see this mapped out, and then I'll, stop. But here is kind of a flow chart of everything that I've talked about. And I didn't include the external partners, but as you kind of just scroll down, it's not really important that you read it. It's more just important that you get a sense. These are all touch points of hundreds and hundreds of people from our community that are coming in and are using our spaces, to do their thing. And so, that number is 25,000 people a year, or 10 to 25,000 head count. There could be some overlap in people.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting. We'll be discussing ways of, we'll be looking at our rates, but I'm very proud of the work that Conference Services is doing, and I think that this policy is aligning well with the college's mission while also acknowledging, that it's important to, have some definition around some of these partnerships.
Well, thank you for
Todd, could you
sharing.
could you share that with us? Could you send that to us?
Sure thing. I have printouts. I'll give it to you in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Linda?
Martha?
I think the thing that's missing is the tax contributions that our communities provide the college. And that's an in-kind contribution that is not reflected in your charts. So I think that will help us be more accurate about how much of that is our contribution and how much of it is our community's contribution. Even the contribution of people who don't use the facility, but who pay taxes to us.
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment. And what I realized as I was like, I'll just compile the costs for, plant and OIT and all these other factors. It gets incredibly complicated when you're trying to figure out the price of people using soap and toilet paper and the electricity, and you have to warm up a side of the campus. And so I appreciate your comment.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you should do that. I'm just suggesting that somewhere in this chart, you acknowledge that in fact there are contributions that are not reflected.
That's a very good comment. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Okay, yeah.
Just one final comment. So thank you so much for putting this together. I think it helps us all in this conversation to know where everybody's coming from and have more information. So I really appreciate all the work you did. I also hope, as our Director of Marketing, that it makes you smile, that we have 25,000 people coming in these facilities, seeing their investment, appreciating it, and telling their neighbor, gosh, you should go take a class out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I could try to put a price on that too. That's what I'm trying to do is what's the value of all this stuff, and that is significant. Yeah, thank you.
Jack?
Madam Chair, just if the board was interested, following up on Deborah's comment, if you look at paragraph G, where we talk about, and prior to that, we also talk about priority is given to academics and student activities. And we list, where there are competing multiple requests. We list 1, 2, 3, 4 as how those would be prioritized. We might want to put in that list foundation meetings. I don't know where it would go in the list.
Foundation activities.
Foundation activities. We could put it down as 5, or I don't know where it would go in there, but just so that it is, I don't see it anywhere in the policy identified as a partner activity. I mean, we certainly, partner activities aren't charged. And the question that Kathy brought up was, what's a partner? And we left that kind of vague. Certainly, the foundation is a partner, so you're not charged. But that's not her comment. Her comment is, I can't get in. So maybe somewhere in that list, just put it at the end if that's acceptable. Just put foundation, SFCC foundation activities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To anybody?
Is that okay? Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, of course, I serve at your pleasure.
No, but you have a thought about, you have many thoughts about these things.
Absolutely.
You are
The foundation is so key. I think it's important.
Right. So
Okay.
can we just put it in as number 5? Does that cause any problems to anybody?
Looks good, yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to amend the policy?
We need a motion to add foundation as number 5.
Madam Chair, I'd move approval of policy 10-1, a new policy as presented with the addition under paragraph G, 5, SFCC foundation activities.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All righty, thank you all. Okay, we're on to financial report.
Do we need to vote on that?
We just did.
No, I mean, when
Good evening.
It's getting late.
Mr. Chair, board members, President Cervantes. In front of you, you have the financial report for the period ending October 31st, 2018 of this fiscal year 19. Just to provide some highlights to the report, we showed a cash balance of 4.2 million at the end of October compared to the prior year of 1.2 million. That's a cash improvement of about $2.9 million. Tuition and fees are down about $310,000 to the prior year, and that's related to the previous conversation of enrollment. Local appropriations down $20,000, and that's just about flat. We don't get our local appropriations till December and January, so that's when we'll know, we'll have a better outlook on how that's shaking out this year. State appropriations is up $228,000, that's up 9%. And in total, revenues are down $127,000 at the end of October. Total ING expenses were down $472,000, and that's down 4%. It's primarily in the compensation area of those expenses. Compensation's down by $434,000. The public service fund has a net gain of $39,000. We spoke earlier about the kids campus deficit of $44,000, but as I mentioned, I think that will be covered by moving some of the expenses from that fund to grants. Essentially, the early childhood program received a Kellogg grant of about $400,000, if I remember correctly, where we can utilize some of that funding there. I believe in the auxiliaries fund, where we account for the food service and bookstore, that has a net gain of $36,000, and our accounts receivable are very low at $800,000 for the end of October. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Tejas? Seeing none, I think you're off scot-free.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the financial report
Second?
for October 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the HED first quarter financial report for 2019.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the governing board, and President Cervantes, we have this required form that's you've seen before. It's due quarterly, and essentially we answer no to all the questions, and the questions are really related to any kind of financial risk that the institution is facing, and we're answering no to all of those, which is beneficial to the institution. It's pretty straightforward.
I move approval.
Motion
Second.
for approval in a second. Is there any discussion or questions for Mr. Tejas? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the SFCC Foundation 2018-2019 quarterly report. And we'll hear from Deborah Bolt.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the governing board, and President Cervantes. Again, my name is Deborah Bolt. I'm the Executive Director of the Santa Fe Community College Foundation and serve on the board as an ex officio member. The report that I submitted to you shows revenue for the period of time from July 1st to September 30th, which is when our financials were completed. They're unaudited. And that amount was $228,275. And it shows an increase of $166,878 from the prior year for the same period. Our investment earnings for that period was $220,929 for a total of $449,204 in new cash gifts and investment earnings. However, since September 30th, we've received an additional $504,869 in new gifts. And for a total of now $518,776. So it's not in the report, but I thought you might want to know. And some of the highlights of those contributions I've listed, but I'll just say very quickly. After nearly 4 years of cultivation with the Kellogg Foundation, we received an award of $400,000 to be distributed over a 3-year period. We have received the first $128,776. This is for the Firstborn program, particularly in our poorest counties. As you know, it's a statewide program. And it's being operated under our Early Childhood Center of Excellence, and people are very excited about it. We are poised to have this program be designated as a best practice, evidence-based program by the federal government. It's been sitting in the pipeline for that. And so we're working with the RAND Corporation and Christus St. Vincent, because Santa Fe was the county where the control group and the study was done, the gold standard evaluation. And so we're very close to having that designation. That means we can take it nationally. And that's when the program will begin to become a revenue center for the college. So additionally, we got $125,000 payment for the Christus St. Vin's commitment of $250,000 for a respiratory therapy faculty. And that is shared 50-50 between the hospital and Ancorum, which is formerly SVH support. So we are cultivating Ancorum. I'm very, very pleased to let you know that we had a meeting with their CEO and some of his team members that was an opportunity that Dean Jenny Landon put together with her team a wish list. And just about everything on the wish list was received very well. So we will be submitting a proposal, a formal proposal, but this was in discussions with the CEO and his team, and they were thrilled. So that they are doing what they call impactful grants that begin at $150,000. So we're hoping that that will be coming down the pike. Thornburg Foundation provided another $100,000. Brindle provided additional funds to our endowed directorship of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence. And their gift of $80,000 has now brought the amount to complete the $1.2 million endowment. We've never had one for directorship. We only have to raise another $120,000. So that's great. It'll be our first, and it'll be $1.2 million, and that's not too far off. So we hope to get more. And you can read the rest of them, but I think it's important to point out that just today we received a gift from the Thornburg, the business side of Thornburg, the investment company, of $15,000, an annual gift. We have a campaign going on right now for our annual campaign, year-end campaign, and we're getting envelopes, the reply envelopes back every day, and that's lovely. One of those gifts was from a board member, Sandy Zane, and her husband, Ned Bennett, who contributed $20,000 for their Contract for Better Tomorrow program. So it's moving along. So hopefully we will outdo what we brought in last year. And we're doing that with a staff of 2.5 people. So the other thing I wanted to point out is that in the money that we raise at the end of the year helps us pay for our matching gift obligations, and it also helps us pay for costs that the college and departments incur and that ask for help, which we'd love to do, especially if we have money available. And you can see on the list that is in my report under events and activities for Section 2, the funds are very broadly applied throughout the college, through each department, and our partners in the community. And some of those partners, we hosted meetings that were very effective for the college, like the All Pueblos Council of Governors hearing that took place here. It's the first time they've been here. 20 Pueblo governors came, or assistant governors, and that was the result of our foundation board member, Regis Pecos, having made that happen. And we learned from them. We learned that our missions were very much aligned, and they learned that we have scholarships for each Pueblo waiting for them. And it was very good because ultimately it will result, particularly with the wonderful outreach to the Jemez Pueblo and the work that Marcos Maez is doing to recruit more Native students, that will increase our Native student population. And we hosted the Legislative Education Study Committee hearing, and that again is a group that will be helpful to our college, knowing about our college, walking around and seeing it, and that's good. Finally, I wanted to bring to your attention that one of the most important assets of the foundation is our art collection. And we insure it. It's managed by the art department now under Linda Castle, which is wonderful. And what we've been doing is producing videos about the artists who are in our collection, starting with the elders first, and making sure this past weekend and the weekend before on Saturday and Sunday, I was with the crew interviewing the son of Alan Hauser, the two sons, Bob Hauses and Philip Hauses, in their studios talking about the story of their dad. And we want to include Alan Hauser because we have an important piece in our collection. So we also, this past Saturday, shot the artist Clarence Cruz, who teaches traditional pot building. And we were able to get the students who were chopping wood and who built a pit fire, and we got all of that documented on tape, and it will be shown at the screen. I asked if we could use the screen, and CCA said absolutely. In the spring, we'll do a highlights video, and we'll invite everybody to come and see it. So those are some of the things that are happening. Oh, and if the amount is $16,827 that I reported, but I'm also including the employee holiday party, which I heard was a great hit. I was unable to attend, but that brings it to close to 20,000. And I wanted to especially thank the president and our vice presidents and the executive team for contributing $825 toward that expense. So that was greatly appreciated, and I think the employees really had a blast from what I hear. Madam Chair, I'll take any questions if there are.
Any questions? Yeah, Jack?
Deborah, of that 16,000, I see that you supported the video production of artists.
I'm sorry, that was 7,500.
For that, yeah, of the 16,000 total,
Okay.
yeah, 7,500. Is that what you were just talking about, or is that something different?
Mhm.
That's this recording of your art collection.
That's right. Of
Okay.
starting with the elders, because we lost one who we were scheduled to interview, Siegfried Hollis, and unfortunately he passed before we could get to him. So it really made me realize I have to do this quickly. And those stories are so incredible. So yes, and we're using our own film students and our film faculty, and it's going through the New Mexico Film Resource organization that's here on campus.
And can you tell me what is the Philanthropy in Action luncheon?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was our scholarship luncheon that we just renamed
Okay.
Philanthropy in Action. That's
Okay,
our
all right.
thank you for our donors, and where you heard from the ambassadors that were just here. They're just extraordinary, and Ernest Kavanaugh does an extraordinary job in leadership training.
Yeah, Vicki and I attended it, but I didn't know what we attended.
That's what it was called.
That's right, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Deborah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, what are we on now?
Legal contract.
Legal contract.
Are you going to approve this one?
Do we need to have an approval of that, or of that quarterly report? It's on the, It's an action
but
item.
We don't usually approve this.
I didn't make the budget, the agenda.
Okay, well, can I have a motion to approve this?
I move approval of the legal contract.
No, we're on the foundation report.
Oh, the foundation report.
Yeah, which is normally information, but
Yeah,
it's
right.
an action, so. Let's
Second.
approve it. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay,
Legal service.
next, legal service.
Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, in front of you, you have the legal services contract. In October, the Santa Fe Community College Procurement Office released RFP P029-18, inviting proposals for legal services. The procurement was issued in accordance with the New Mexico Procurement Code, and Santa Fe SFCC has $245,000 budgeted for legal services for this fiscal year, and we are recommending that the board approves the legal contract as submitted.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Didn't we also get a 10%, a 20% discount
That is correct.
in year one?
We did negotiate. The rates sort of were in alignment with our previous contract, and we did negotiate a 20% discount the first year of this legal contract, and then in years thereafter will be about 15%.
Question?
Yeah, how does this billing work in terms of what sort of services do they provide within that amount? Are there things that we ask for that they charge us in addition to that, or are they just available?
Can I explain, because the bill comes to me, and so the examples of charges include collective bargaining, that's one that we're involved with now. And then there's a variety of personnel matters that we consult with the attorneys.
And
And
don't
so,
they also charge by, sometimes it's not clerical, but assistant work
yes,
versus our attorney?
yes, and they're
fee?
less. The clerical support is a lower amount, you know, than the attorneys. And then the foundation uses the services also, for instance, when we were acquiring the Firstborn program, but they pay for those services themselves, the foundation does. So those are just some examples that, you know, come in based on, and they identify who they've worked with, like the vice president or the foundation director or myself.
So what are we getting for the fee that we're paying them for?
Legal advice.
Get a lot of
legal advice, yeah, contracts. They review contracts to make sure that, you know, that they're appropriate for us.
Madam Chair, Board Member Gamble, we have in the contract attachment A, and it identifies the deliverables on this contract. So these are the specific things that they have agreed to provide to us. You know, preparation of wide range of contracts, joint power agreements, construction contracts, other legal documents, advice related to procurement, RFP, educational policies and procedures, employment and labor law, real property law advice, financial aid law advice, general tort liability, public entity practices, that sort of thing. It goes on and on. There's a lot of things related to regulations that apply to higher education institutions, FMLA, FERPA, ADA, Title IX, Title VII, Civil Rights Act. You know, there's a lot of things that they have to work with us on.
I guess maybe my question wasn't clear. Namely, the amount that of this contract, is that, what does that represent? Is that what we pay them regardless of the services? Is that, no?
They have hourly rates dependent on their attorneys working on it.
Okay.
And those rates are based upon the attorney's experience, years of.
Okay. So it's fee for service?
Yes.
Okay. That was what I wasn't clear about.
Estimated amount or?
It's an estimated, based on prior years is what we budget. We know what we spent in prior years.
Right, okay.
And then I would like to just point out that the agreement does allow the firm to offer the college president and other senior administrators up to 90 minutes of consultation over the phone and email per week at no charge for that. So that's in addition to the discount. So.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
We have a, yep.
In attachment A, and I don't see it, but it mentions representing the college before courts and other administrative and judicial and quasi-judicial authorities. What about the representation of individual board members if they are named in a particular suit?
That, I believe, usually would go and be forwarded to our insurance. Our insurance covers officers and, you know, basically board officers on the foundation and the governing board.
But doesn't our attorney make a recommendation or make references to the insurance company when something like that happens?
They do refer those, once they become aware of those things, they forward it on to the insurance company. Then the insurance company will identify representation normally, under normal circumstances.
But in a case where that may be denied, then what happens?
That would be correct. I would believe they would handle it.
We're covered by the Tort Claims Act, so the college has an obligation to represent us, either through our insurance company, NIPSIA, or through attorneys that we pay. So we would have to be covered.
Yeah, and
by some, I mean, we would have to have our representation.
Right, I understand, but I'm just saying that if that were to occur, it seems to me that ought to be one of the deliverables or activities included in attachment A.
Okay, I think we can negotiate that before, we.
Just to make it clear.
For the lawsuits against the board members personally.
Yeah, if you're named personally as a part of some college-related activity, and the rest of the board isn't, then there needs to be some backup protection or some backup representation there.
I believe that's already implied, but we could probably.
Yeah, and there's a statute that indemnifies. So.
Right, but indemnification is not legal representation. Indemnification is what happens. Someone has to go to court and say, what the case is and that they are indemnified for this reason and so forth. So someone has to bear the expense of that representation, and it's. I don't, certainly hasn't occurred while I've been a member of the board, but I just think it's something that ought to be added in the deliverables.
Well, I believe it was called in when we had the legal issue before. It was
right,
used.
When we were
but wouldn't general tort liability and public entity practices cover that?
Cover that, yeah.
I don't know. I'm always one for being specific when there's specificity to be had, and I don't know if that covers it or not. I would just, if you wanted to put it under 1.1.17 and just say including but not limited to, something that would be a little more specific there, I'd feel more comfortable about that.
Fine, ask them.
Yeah, see how they would word it. I think they know what we're talking about.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, don't we? Do we have a motion and a second? Okay.
I think we do.
All right. All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, no, motion carries. Thank you. Now, automotive. I guess that's why you're sitting there, Henry.
Well, thank you, members of the board, Chairman Siegel and President Dr. Cervantes. Thank you so much for allowing us to present this evening. This is real exciting times for Capital. This is a project, your local GOB, working for our community. We're well on our way to carrying out our capital plan with regards to the local general obligation bond. And this is a large project, if not the largest project. This is a project that we're asking for approval from the board to go forward to the state. The project title is the Santa Fe Community College Automotive Technology and Training Center Facility. Just a point of reference, I believe the state has made a reference that for every $1 million we create at least 10 jobs. So theoretically speaking, this construction project should at least create 70 new jobs in our community. So that's a plus for creating work in our community and providing job resources. This particular project is a $7 million project. Its description is to construct a new automotive technology and training center facility, classrooms, laboratories, administrative space on the Santa Fe Community College main campus in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in Santa Fe County. This particular project has a total project cost of $7 million. The construction phase of this project is a project cost of $4.9 million. Just a quick brief timeline on this project. We plan to go to the state before December 10th to submit to be heard January 9th. If we don't submit in time to be heard January 9th, or if we're not accepted on the agenda, the next hearing date would be in April. So we're on a very tight timeline on this particular project. We're scheduled to present to the state January 9th. We're scheduled to complete our CMAR RFP December 12th. We hope to have the CMAR, which is the construction manager, on board by middle of February. Hope to have the design complete by May. And we're a little optimistic, but we hope to have the construction complete by the end of December, preferably for classes in January. And we'll we'll take a review of that schedule with our architects and our construction manager at risk and make sure that we have deliverables we can meet. Having said that, we stand for any questions. We ask for your approval so we can move forward to getting state approval and move forward on the construction portion of this project.
So these are the forms that you've completed that we need to submit to HED to get their formal approval.
That's correct.
Is there any questions?
A quick question on the budgeting. So this is for 4.9 million, the request. The total project estimate is 7 million. So will we come back for a phase 2 of this project? And
Well, we've already agreed to the design, and that was about $500,000.
okay,
And so between,
this is the last
this is the last piece. So between the 4 million and the roughly 1 million in contingency and owner costs, we're at the 7 million.
okay, thank you.
And this, of course, is from our bond that was. Local bond approved by our Santa Fe County taxpayers.
That's correct. This is
We're grateful
proceeds.
for that.
February of
Yes.
2007.
Proceeds from our local general obligation bond.
Okay, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, the next item is approval of the College Promise Task Force. We did officially approve that in the meeting prior, our joint meeting with the foundation, so that could be reflected in these minutes, I think.
That's fine.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just a quick question on that. So was the prior meeting with the foundation a working session or
noticed.
an actual notice meeting so we could conduct business?
It was noticed and our attorney said we could do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, and the last item is the search consultant substitute.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we actually announced that we were having a replacement for Tessa Martinez-Pollack, who has become seriously ill, and she is being replaced by Jean Floten. And it was important that we make that announcement at that time because of the timeline and where we were in the search process. So that was that we needed to move forward as quickly as possible. Since then, we've discovered that because that technically constitutes a change in our contract, that we needed board approval specifically to have Jean approved by the board. And so you have her resume in front of you. We have had, well, she's been working since the last board meeting, has been very much involved in both the recruitment and in the work with the search committee, has attended one search committee meeting and is about to come for a second one on the 10th of December. So I would suggest that we approve this replacement on our contract with Academic Search. I will give you an update about the entire process later on in the agenda, but this is just the approval of the search consultant.
Questions?
Madam Chair.
Jack?
Madam Chair, I'd recommend, make a motion to approve this this agenda item with the condition that the staff visit with the consultant with regard to an adjustment in the fee of the consultant based on the experience of the team members in search activities. The original search request for proposals included 2 people who had search experience. In my memory was both had more than 20 years experience in search activities. And this individual, I think, has a lot of experience as in college administrative activities, but less than 1 year of experience in academic search activities. The first substitution that we were presented with had about 3 to 4 years experience in search consultant activities. So I think at this point in time, I think in any consultant firm, as we've just seen in this legal contract that we approved, the rates that are charged are a function of the experience of the members of the team. And so my motion would be to approve this substitution and have the staff engage in discussion with the consultant about an adjustment to the fee to reflect the experience profiles of the two members.
Okay, for purposes of discussion, is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Discussion?
So I have a question. I know when the consultants originally came to campus, both of them had campus-wide meetings. Will there be an opportunity for the new consultant to kind of step in and have those relationships as well?
She already has been involved with the campus search committee.
Okay.
So
Which is reflective of
she has both attended a meeting and she has been interacting. Initially, when she came on, we had about 19 applicants. We now have 91. So a lot of that work has been her work, and she is very. She has conducted other searches that aren't reflected in her resume, which I thought was interesting. But in conversations with her and with the president of Academic Search, we talked about that because the president of Academic Search did call to explain why the second adjustment was being made. So we've had extensive conversations about that.
I think that the important thing about our contract is what the outcomes are, and
Yeah.
I feel like that the contractor has been delivering and provided us good service, and things happen where people get sick, and I personally don't see a need to reduce their contract, or even ask them to reduce their contractual amount, as long as they've been providing us the quality service. I think having 91 applicants is indicative of their ability to find people who may be interested in this job. So I would oppose this motion.
Well, Madam Chair, the bottom line is that you could have 91 applicants, and what this search firm is supposed to be doing is having the experience to evaluate those 91 applicants and come up with recommendations to the search committee, and then the search committee refines that down. So it's, in my judgment, really quite important that they have a great deal of experience in evaluating applicants, curricular large numbers of applicants, where you have to cut through the long resumes and curricula vitae and look very carefully at what Santa Fe Community College is about. This is a late comer to the process, and just in my experience with contracts, the experience of the persons that you are engaging reflects in their fee, and I think we're in a situation where we're confronted with two persons who have considerably less experience, and we're going to certainly go forward. We're not going to stop the process, but I, at the same time, feel that the college is due an adjustment to its fee to reflect that.
I guess
I think they've performed the tasks that we've asked them to perform.
They are performing the tasks that we've asked of them, and I would argue with their lack of experience, because they have considerable experience in evaluating resumes and evaluating senior level positions. They have worked with other search firms. So I don't see the necessity for for reducing their fees, or even suggesting reducing their fees.
Well, it may or may not get reduced. I just suggested as a part of the motion that our procurement office visit with them, and I think I've got confidence in the procurement office coming up with the best outcome for the college. And if the outcome is take it or leave it, then we're pretty well stuck with it. We're going to have to take it. But if the outcome is that, yes, we realize there's a difference in the experience level of the personnel from what we originally proposed in RFP, and we're willing to accommodate that in some form. That's the intent.
Okay, any other comments? Let's vote on the motion.
Well, I would agree that there were changes made and they were unavoidable. And indeed, the candidate looks like they may be a fine candidate. However, given the substantial difference, looking at 1 or 2 years of experience in comparison to, I don't recall exactly the earlier candidates, but they certainly had substantial experience.
Well, they had 3 or 4. One has 3 or 4, and one had 7.
The earlier ones?
Yes.
Okay. It would seem to me not unreasonable simply to pose the question to academic search, given the change, might there be an adjustment in the cost, and accepting whatever they say.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
No. I believe the vote is 3-2. Can we have another motion to approve this?
I move the approval of Jean Floten as the academic search consultant on this contract.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Motion carries. Okay. Then, let's see, first reading, that's just, okay, board. We're on to board reports.
No first readings.
But we're not going to do anything with first reading.
We're not going to do anything with first
Are we
reading.
going to go through these? No, we don't usually go through them.
Okay. I did want to make a comment about one of them, Madam Chair.
Okay.
We've had a lot of work done by the committee that Laura and Secretary Gamble and I are on. And I brought this up very briefly at our last board meeting as we look over this financial oversight policy. It's an important policy. And when you look it over, I think the board should think about the transparency and the function and the need for a so-called board finance committee. The way the policy is right now, the finance committee is still there. So there's no magic things in the policy that cause changes. So this one's a little different than what's in the book.
Okay.
Because this includes the committee's recommendation.
So this is the first time we're seeing this?
No, you've seen this before, but
Well, this is a new one.
This is a new
different from the book?
This is different, slightly different from what's in the book. So you could, and this is the first reading, so you have time to look it over before we bring it back. But what I'm bringing forward for you to think about is that I think that the financials and the financial reports that are done and very comprehensively each month should be a board meeting, and they should be and could be done one of two ways: either at this meeting in more detail, because basically we say, well, we heard all the detail at the work session, But the work sessions at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's at the Finance Committee's meeting, which is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the public's not there, and it's not recorded. There's no minutes of that meeting, and there's no recording of that meeting. So my suggestion could be twofold. We either put it on the regular board meeting, because it is a board function. If we're having all the board members there, it's a board meeting. Or we have it at the same time we've been having it, and we record the meeting and make it available to the public. The President's conference room now is wired for recording as a part of the emergency services upgrades. So I want to throw that out, because I really think in the past there were financial problems. The answer to that at the time was, let's make the full board the Finance Committee. And my suggestion now is, let's take that a step further and make it a full board function, and make that transparent to the public as well, so that anyone that has a question about the finances can see it on the recordings. So that's not reflected in this document, but I think we really need to think about the Finance Committee and its timing in the afternoon, when no one can attend except staff, and to elevate it to a board meeting report. Now, perhaps Mr. Taz can be a little more succinct in his reporting. I'm not sure. Whatever's important, of course, has to be reported. But we don't want to have the meetings going forever. So that's my thinking. So I just throw that out, and if everybody enjoys coming to a separate finance meeting every month, so be it. I just think that we need to acknowledge that it's a board function.
Madam Chair, so first of all, I want to say that I share Member Sullivan's concerns about making sure that our financial process is open and transparent as we can possibly make it, including that really robust conversation in the report that we get from the college's CFO telling us about the status of our finances, that should be openly shared as well to not only the campus but the general public, the taxpayers who provide these revenues for us to run the college. My question, however, is what's the appropriate venue? Because that's not something we're dealing with in this policy that's before us now. So what's the appropriate venue for the board to make that decision and consider it? Would we put it on a future agenda? Is it something that the chair would make a decision on, basically in terms of organizations of the committee or the board?
I think that Jack is proposing putting an addition into the policy, is that right?
What I would propose as a part of this policy, Madam Chair, would actually be to eliminate specifying a board finance committee in this policy. What we would say in this policy is that the chair has the authority to create any committees, which is the case now, and that financial reports, full financial reports, would be on the agenda of the board meeting. Now, if the chair felt that was making the meetings too long, we could call it a board meeting instead of a financial committee meeting on the day before the regular meeting, have it televised, and run it as a regular board meeting. And that transparency, I think, helps us with the public. It helps us with the legislature. I think it's an easy step up from where we are right now.
You know, the whole purpose of this came about after some bad situations where the board was not getting the correct financial information and not even able to dig deep enough into it. And I think to put it back on the board agenda definitely will lengthen the board meetings, and I've really appreciated the separate meetings where we could spend an hour and a half or more delving deeply into questions that we all have and going through all the different financials. I hear what you're saying about the transparency, and I think that I want to see a finance committee or a board meeting for discussion of finances in the policies, because I think if we give discretion, the same thing that could happen before will happen again, where we're not spending ample time reviewing these financials and reviewing the budget proposals and the rest. So I can see making that a televised board meeting, absolutely, but for the purpose of really deeply reviewing all the financials.
So you could simply say, Madam Chair, instead of the Board Finance Committee, you say the board shall meet to review the financial statements and proposed budgets.
In a separate meeting.
Could be in a separate meeting, could be in the same meeting. That would be at the discretion, I think, of the chair.
That's what I don't want.
You don't want it to be.
Discretion of the chair.
Oh, okay.
It should be a policy, and the policy says we're going to have a separate finance meeting of the board.
Okay, well then we could write it that way. I'm not arguing that, and if you want to have another meeting, have another meeting.
It's not that I want.
We still get $95. You know, we get the big bucks here. So, you know.
Yeah, I think I would agree that a separate meeting to really delve into the finances is really very prudent for us. And it will help us not get into some situations that we had before. I think if you want to have a separate meeting, as we do now, the day before, when the reports are in and they're as up to date as they're going to be for the board meeting, and having that televised, I wouldn't see any objection to that. But I think adding them to this meeting and trying to make this meeting go until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, is just, it's not good thinking time for us. So I think that would make a lot more sense if we want to go there.
I bring that up, Madam Chair, so that we will take these discussions that we've had here back to our subcommittee. Good. And we'll kind of hammer out a little, Laura, on that paragraph B there, which we've hammered on already, and try to put that in language that the board is comfortable with, so that where transparency still is the number one issue. We can meet for 5 hours if you like, but I'm just trying to get it out there so everyone suffers the same the same time.
Yes. Do you want to come up?
So I was one of the first co-chairs of the Employee Financial Oversight Committee, which is being renamed, but I would advocate that that is also a really important step in transparency and request that you please keep that in.
Absolutely.
No, you're talking
That's another policy, right?
No, it's in.
It's in this policy.
Okay, yes.
No, the employee committee is still there. In fact, it's.
We want it. Yes.
No. It's.
No changing.
It's required in the policy before every meeting that the employee committee meet with with the president. Is that right? And you do that.
Yes, Board Member Solomon, I just wanted to advocate for that because I was one of the first co-chairs of that subcommittee.
Right. And that's a valuable input to the whole process. There's no question about it. No, we didn't tinker with that. I think we changed the name of the committee a little bit. I think we changed it to review instead of something else, whatever it was. But other than that, we didn't tinker with it.
I think one thing I would like to suggest, as long as we're talking about this, I have a little bit of a problem having a first reading that has updated information and then the next time it comes to a second reading. I think if we're going to change the policy, we should change the policy and do another first reading of a new policy rather than to move it into a second reading with changes.
So bring this back as a first reading again.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Madam President, this particular policy has been on the board's agenda since September.
But we made another change.
Yeah, as long as we're making changes, I think we have to keep looking at it as a first reading, because...
Isn't this a first reading?
Yes.
Yes.
And we want it to come...
You want another first reading?
There's another first reading.
We haven't really studied this document. So
Now we have a new amendment or change to it, which we would...
Okay.
If I might raise another related issue regarding these financial reports and meetings. Several times I think I have felt that Nick's reporting is wonderful. Some of it goes over my head. And I'm wondering if it would be at some point helpful and might facilitate the meeting process if we kind of had some kind of training, some kind of review as to what kind of things are really important in these reports. So if we knew that, Nick could help us kind of refine that, then our meetings, whenever they occur, could be shorter and maybe easier for Nick as well as for us. And I would very much like sometime to consider doing that. And maybe Madam Chair would.
Maybe we need like a refresher training on...
Yeah.
we did that fairly early on after we were in trouble, so it might be time to redo it. And you weren't a part of it, so that would be a useful thing to do, I think. For all of us, a refresher is always useful.
Right.
So why don't you all plan that for us
Okay.
in the spring?
Refresher budget training.
Yeah. And we'll be doing budgets then.
That's right.
Right.
Or before then, before we
Before
start.
we start
Yeah.
budgets. Yeah, we
do
had
it.
some, I can't remember when that training was, but we had some excellent training on how.
Yeah, we did.
It's every section of the budget, how it works.
That was before my time.
Yeah,
it was.
So that'd be good.
And mine too.
Yeah.
And I would add, Madam Chair, just on these first readings, and this is not, you don't even have this yet for a first reading, but the subcommittee has been, and Laura, who's of course done all the work, has been working on the handbook. Oh, the handbook. All right, guys and gals, this is not an easy thing. Okay, but here is what we've done at our last meeting is we've gone through what we feel will be the table of contents of the handbook, and that's pretty impressive. And a lot of things in there that I would have liked to have seen when I took my oath of office. I just want to add finally about that the theory on the handbook will be that it's a resource document. There's nothing in the handbook that will be, there will be a listing of policies from Section 1 policies, so they'll be convenient for anybody. And section 1, of course, is board, dealing with the board actions and activities. But the handbook will not be in itself a policy document. It'll be a resource document. If you want the policies of the college, you go to the policies. The handbook will not paraphrase the policies, and that was one of the problems. That is one of the problems with the current handbook.
But I hope it won't be a procedures manual.
No, it's not a procedures manual. It has nothing to do with procedures.
Okay.
Procedures are a part of policies, and Laura has a schedule for procedures. What's the timeline? It's so many days.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, the schedule for procedures is 30 days after the board has approved the policy.
Right? So
They are also posted online.
and then she does the procedures, and of course the president reviews them, and they go online, and the procedures are there. This is not procedures, and it's not paraphrasing. It's only resource documents.
Acronyms.
And we have a three-page listing already of acronyms. you know, what's PTO mean? And all those types of things. For people that are into cars, that means power takeoff, but it's not what it means in the Santa Fe Community College. So that's just like one document that'll be there. Organization chart will be in there. There'll be a lot of convenient documents in there that make it easy for any member and certainly a new member to see how the college works. And what's,
look forward to seeing that.
what's expected. Oh yeah, me too. I'm really looking forward to it. It's taken us all this time just to get to the table of contents, but we hacked that over yesterday, and I think we're about 90% of the way there on the table of contents. Then we have to start putting it together. So don't look for that next meeting. That's going to be a little while coming, but that's the intent. So that's.
So since this is first reading, we don't have to vote on it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we are prepared to present and answer questions on 1-28, which is the governing board's evaluation of the president, and 1-29, which is the governing board's self-evaluation. If you have the inclination to.
There's no changes there, so now's your chance.
There are no substantive changes. We did align the language with the language that we decided was appropriate for our policies.
I didn't see anything in the CEO president policy, the evaluation of the policy, that I would question. I do have one question on 129. So which do you want to talk about?
The only thing about the president policy, oh, never mind, here it is. I want to make sure it said annually.
Yeah, it says annually, yeah.
Okay.
I caught that too. We hadn't put it in there earlier.
We'll set goals, but
Yeah.
then do we say annually evaluate? It says we can evaluate at any time, but I do believe we need to set in policy that the president must have an annual evaluation. So wherever that would go.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Perhaps under F.
The other thing I think in this policy, now that I'm thinking about it, is that I think while an annual evaluation is important, I also think that over a period of time, maybe every 3 years, or maybe every time the new contract comes up, that we should have a more substantive evaluation that might include campus, that might include.
360?
A 360 would be a useful kind of thing. But maybe that's covered under we can evaluate it at any time, and the nature of the evaluation, wherever that is.
Okay.
Well,
does
it
say
has,
here-
it has E, at the discretion, the
Right.
board may employ written assessment tools in the annual review. So that gives us discretion to do it or not to do it, and so I guess that covers it.
And that also states that the president is evaluated annually.
Yeah, in the
yeah.
policy, yeah, it does
Yeah,
say
yeah.
evaluated by the board.
So I think it's all right.
But then it says may choose to evaluate at any time. Okay. All right, so 29?
So are we copacetic with 128?
One question, would you be more comfortable if we said the board shall conduct an annual evaluation of the president and make that a
Make
policy
it real
process?
clear. Yeah, yeah. And then leave the statement about evaluation any other time, or?
So in 129, my only addition is really that nothing in these A through, I guess it's E now, says anything about the relationship of the board with the president. And I think that is a critical function of the board in its self-evaluation, to understand its relationship to the president.
I think B says that on page 16, evaluate president-board relations
Yes,
and its ability to work together towards a common goal.
right. It just
Well, but
deleted CEO.
But to me, when you talk about president-board relations, there's a slight emphasis to president. And what I think this policy should say is a relationship of the board members to the president.
Okay. That sounds right.
Well, I think we want to be careful there, because we get, the issue is, the board member relations. We get down to the issue that we deleted E, and the reason we deleted E was that we didn't feel it was the board's position to evaluate the role of each member. We're evaluating the president. We're not evaluating. I mean not the president.
We're evaluating the board.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'll take it back. Okay. Would the jury please disregard that comment? We're doing a governing board self-evaluation policy. We're not doing a member evaluation policy. So that's the reason E is stricken. So I think we want to be careful in the wording, that to be sure that we're talking about the president and the board's interactions and relations, not any particular members' interactions and relations.
Well, then we could just change B to evaluate the board's relationship with the president.
Yes.
That's fine.
That way.
That's fine.
And leave the rest, and its ability to work together.
Yeah. If that.
That would be fine.
Okay. We don't want to get into slippery slopes here.
Okay. All right. So
You got that, Laura? Is that
there's
okay?
that.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
So may 1-28 and 1-29 be moved to second reading?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those are small changes. All right, so let's talk about board retreat next steps at the next board meeting and presidential search update.
Thank you. Says Martha.
So are we here yet?
Thank you.
Okay, so just to bring you up to date on the search process.
Did I get your copy?
At this point, I didn't get you a copy.
Mine says Martha on it.
Oh, well, that's good.
Okay.
It's the same one.
All right.
She was just handing it to me. Okay, so the first form you see, the form that I just distributed, is an EEO form that lays out, as you will see, not everyone, there are 91 applicants, not everyone has filled out an EEO form. 43 people have filled out the EEO form, which is discretionary. They don't have to fill it out. But of those who have filled it out, 9% of the candidates are Native American. That means 4 candidates. Asian American, there's 4.6%, and that's 2 candidates. Oh, I'm sorry, I started in the wrong place.
Is this the front page?
Yeah, no, let me start in the front page. The front page gives you the, and I should just get a copy. Yeah, that's okay.
You want your copy back?
Oh, we gave the extra one to.
All right, so let me go through them page by page. There are 62%, 27 applicants are male. Of the 43, not of all 91, so we have to keep that in mind. And at the
Would you clarify why we would only know the gender of 41 of the 93?
Because they're the only ones who fill out the EEO form. You don't.
Why would someone apply?
Because it's discretionary, and that's a federal rule.
That requires.
Okay.
They can do it or not.
So do we know their names, or is that
Yeah, we
also
know their
discretionary?
names, of course. We do know their names. Sometimes you don't know whether a name is male or female, however.
Right, I understand that.
Okay, and 37% are female, or 16 of the 43. If you go to the next page, which is where I was headed, American Indian or Alaska Native, 9.3%, or 4 candidates. Asian, 4.65, or 2 candidates. Black or African American, 11.63, there are 5 candidates. Hispanic or Latino, there are 41.86, and those are 18 candidates of the 43. There are many more in each of these categories, I think, when you look at the 91. Native American or Pacific Islander, they have nobody identified there. White, 37%, and that's 16 candidates. And the multicultural or multiracial, they're 4.65, and that's 2 candidates. And one filled out the form but said they didn't want to disclose that. So that's what we know about them. Veteran status, 9.3% have veteran status, that's 4 candidates, and 39 of the 43 said no, there was no candidate. Disability status, we have 3 candidates, 6.98%, 7% have a disability status, and 93%, or 40 of them, do not. So that's the gender piece. So let me just go quickly review our process so far. The consultants have reviewed all of the applicants. They have gone through and identified those that meet the minimum qualifications. Not all 91 of them meet the minimum qualifications. There are probably 70% that do, maybe a little more, maybe closer to 80%. So if they meet the minimum qualifications, then the search committee is invited to rate them. And they have a sheet, a rating sheet that they're using, and they're all using the same rating sheet, and they're all doing it online. They don't have to rate the ones that don't meet minimum qualifications. They can look at those apps if they want to, if they're curious about them, or if they are curious about why they don't meet the qualifications. But the search committee has done a considerable amount of work in rating some 80 applicants. On December 10th, the search committee is slated to meet, and it will take the top candidates that the search committee has identified. So the top vote getters, in other words. And they will try to narrow that down with the consultants. The consultants will be here. They will try to narrow that list down to the ones that they want to interview. And they may want to interview 7, they may want to interview 10, they may want to interview however many they want. And those will be decided at that point. And following that, the committee will set up interviews, semifinalist interviews. After the semifinalist interviews, they will have another rating session, and they will decide the 5 to send to us. At that point, those have to be made public, and we will need to schedule interviews with those 5 or more. They could send us 6, or they could send us, but they have to, by New Mexico law, they have to send us 5.
So the consultants will check with those 5 people to make sure they're really interested in their names being revealed.
Yes, and the other thing they will check with is to see if they are willing to have their names identified. If they're not willing to have their names identified, then they will just go off the list, because that's our law. Okay.
One question, Martha. So
yeah.
When does the search committee do their questions? The questions that they're going to.
They will take part in. That's part of this meeting on the December 10th. Correct. So that's when they will talk about what kind of questions are allowable, what kind of questions do they want to pursue with the candidates.
And the consultants and Terrence will make sure they're legal questions.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So following the interview with the board, which is what I noted earlier to correct in the faculty senate meetings, we will set up interviews with the finalists, and when each finalist is here, they will have an opportunity to meet the public and the internal community. After that point, we will have rating forms that the community forums will provide to us, and we will have some conversation with the consultants at that point about what our questions can be. So they will help us sort through what's allowable, how do we pursue, what's the process that we use to conduct interviews, and how do we use the data that we have at this point. And then from that, the board will meet and decide on a finalist. At some point, the consultants will begin reference checking with the semifinalists. In all likelihood, we will want more substantial reference checks for maybe several finalists, our top candidate picks. We will want the consultants to engage in more extensive interviews. And if you remember, the contract says that they may contract out, and we may have an additional payment to make on that if that's what we want. And my suggestion is we want that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So in essence, that's kind of where we are. So yes.
A quick update. Will you remind me about timing? So when would the search committee expect to forward the list of finalists to the boards for interviewing? About what's the time frame in that?
That depends on when, let me see if I find my calendar, because that has that information. It depends on when the semifinalist interviews can be identified. They have set aside some time in February. Maybe it's in January. Yeah, they have set the 18th of January, the 21st, and the 25th, and the 28th for possible interviews. So those are on the search committee's calendars. Those may or may not happen on those dates, depending on when the candidates are available and depending on how many candidates they're interviewing. So there may be more of those or less of those. So that's when the semifinalists, and then following that, we will have to set times for us.
Thank you.
And those
and we hope to have a candidate named by April. But that's flexi.
And those semifinal interviews will be done by telephone?
No. They will all be on campus. You will remember that one of
Semifinal.
the semifinalists, yes, will be face-to-face interviews at this point.
Oh, I'm sorry. The candidates that you choose on December 10th.
The top 10, the top maybe 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people.
Yes, in person.
Those are the semifinalists.
Okay. Okay. Oh, with the search committee, they're going to be in person. So those people will be brought
Yes.
someplace.
And you will remember that we had a long conversation because the consultants wanted to have those interviews in Albuquerque.
Right.
And enough of us thought that they needed to be on the campus. So they will be on the campus. They will not be announced when they'll be on the campus.
Right.
Or if they'll, what the process is for their being on the campus.
Right.
But, and that's why those dates are also in flux.
Right.
It depends on when they're available. It depends on, when the search committee is going to be available. So those are all to be set.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you for the update.
any other questions?
Yeah, those 91 people. Interesting that, yeah, I'm still kind of fascinated that you don't have to give some information, but you're applying for a job? Yeah. That's the law.
Okay, our next meeting, January 23rd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I oppose.
You're welcome.